Ambassador Billy Masetlha, Amogelang, Dumelang, it's good to see you. Dumelang Baholo, Le Bome, Le Bora, Kilo de Modi Selotle, Palela Pomodimo Onale Lona. God be with you today. Kubulunga, Kubulungu, Kakulu. It hurts today because we never thought Billy Masetlha would be here. The death of Ambassador Billy Masetlha represents a sober moment for revolutionaries in our country, in Africa and in the global south in particular. Since his demise, many generous epithets such as leader, commissar, internationalist and intellectual have been used to describe his preeminent existence on this earth. In the writings of Antonio Gramsci, the Italian Marxist, we detect the dialectic of the role of the individual in the struggle for transformation of society. Gramsci makes the seminal point that all persons are intellectuals, but not all has been assigned the social function of intellectuals within their society. Within the different genus of social groupings within our society, Ambassador Masetlha distinctly and uncompromisingly distinguished himself as an activist and a proletarian intellectual. It was neither for glory nor distinction that his generation took to the struggle, abandoning their youth and everything that was dear to them, committed all their energies and efforts to fight to emancipate our people from the indignity of oppression and exploitation. Indeed, it will come to pass that many eminent members of their generation, like their predecessors, would ultimately make the ultimate sacrifice and succumb to death at the hand of an enemy that was as vicious as it was meticulous in its cruelty. Similarly, Ambassador Masetlha grandson on the great stages of the world started more than 44 years back when he acted as plenipotentiary for the African National Congress on the global affairs, representing the party in particular on the African continent. This international pillar of solidarity was foregrounded on the frontline states, and in 1979, the year declared by the African National Congress as the year of the spear, Ambassador Masetlha left for exile. He joined Roli Masinga, Joyce Dipali, and Joe Klabi in Botswana, and he thereafter proceeded to the German Democratic Republic, GDR, for his training and return to the southern part of Africa upon his completion, where he was stationed in Botswana and Zambia. In Zambia, he became a member of the Regional Political Committee and served the body as its secretary. He thereafter left for London to deputize Mendi Msimang, who was the ANC's chief representative in the United Kingdom and Ireland. Ambassador Masetlha, ladies and gentlemen, was in the receiving delegation when President Nelson Mandela first visited the UK after his release. His responsibility as Home Affairs as a DG placed the onerous responsibility on him to ensure that irregular migration of, in particular, fellow Africans are seen in the context of Africa's common challenges. As DG of the National Intelligence Agency, his obligation was to ensure that our security in South Africa are intertwined and interwoven with the peace and security architecture of Africa. Ambassador Masetlha was duly accredited as Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary to both the Republic of Algeria and the Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic in the Western Maghreb. This, ladies and gentlemen, may have been and prove out to be the pinnacle of his very deep participation in struggle. During this time, he would be interwoven to the political strategies that both the Algerian Front de Liberation Nationale, the FLN, and the Polisario executed. Under his tutelage, South Africa hosted Your Excellency Brahim Ghali, the President of the Sahari Arab Democratic Republic and the General Secretary of the Polisario Front, in October 2022. He was keen, ladies and gentlemen, to witness the 7th Binational Commission, the BNC, which is scheduled to take place later this year in Algeria, between President Tebboune and President Ramaphosa. In this regard, he pivoted in the senior officials meeting the finalization, ladies and gentlemen, of 16 MOUs and agreements for possible signing during the upcoming Binational Commission. He placed himself at the center of recalibrating relationships between these great countries, who are the steadfast voices of solidarity on this African continent. He frowned and actively worked to undermine the so-called Tangiers appeal, calling for the expulsion of Western Sahara from the AU in contravention of Security Council Resolutions 1495. One dared to make the following parallel. Maxime Gorky, after the October Revolution, states, and I quote, "In the autumn of 1918, I asked Dmitry Pavlov, a Somorvo worker, what in his opinion was Lenin's outstanding feature, and he responded, his simplicity. He was as simple as he was true, he answered without hesitation. We can say that the simplicity of Ambassador Billy Masetlha is one of his enduring features to many who came across him. But I must confess, ladies and gentlemen, he had a spine of steel, but a heart of gold. Ordinarily, the death of any human being is a tragedy. There is, however, a deeper tragedy in the death of a revolutionary, and there are a number of reasons for this. Being classified as a revolutionary presupposes a number of things. It presupposes that you have taken a decision that your whole life is no longer your own, and it is now dedicated to a cause far more supreme than your personal aspirations. Secondly, it presupposes that you have decided that you will consciously deny yourself some of the material benefits that you would ordinarily have enjoyed as someone who simply would have wanted a better life for themselves and their loved ones. And lastly, it presupposes that you have taken a decision to put your life and livelihood at risk, because by choosing the path of revolution, you are essentially choosing the path of death and other kinds of dangers. You, Ambassador Masetlha, was presented with only two choices: to submit to the apartheid tyranny or to oppose it. You chose wisely. You were a man with unquestionable integrity, a man with an overwhelming honesty, wearing a smile in his heart and face. A man, ladies and gentlemen, who represented the best values of his people and who dedicated his entire life to their service. In front of us is a man who taught so many generations the real meaning of selflessness and sacrifice for the common good of men and women he sometimes knew he would never meet. Ladies and gentlemen, I conclude. Shakespeare once says, cowards die many times before the death, but the valiant never taste death but once. Billy Masetlha wayathetha kabantu. He was always talking about people. Siza kuluma kabantu na. Are we still talking about the people? Amadela kufa amakhatla ngokheleli. Your people knew that you loved them. Thank you very much.